Hey everybody, welcome back to the Top 10, the podcast where we riff and then we rank at the very end. Today we have a fresh top 10, just like every episode. Today we are going to be ranking the top 10 players to never win a Super Bowl. I'm here with my dad, Sweet Al, and don't forget to click like and subscribe. So let's get into the show today. So today we're going to be talking about our NFC teams. We're going to go over what their records were last year and what we think their records are going to be this year. So we will give a start today. We are going to start in the NFC West. So I'll start. I'm going to go with the Rams first. So last year they were 10-7. This year I think they're going to go 12-5. Their young defense is only going to get better. They had a great front seven last year. I think they end up getting Jalen Ramsey back from the Dolphins. I think it's going to be a late off-season trade, but I think it will be right before the start of the season. I don't think Jalen Ramsey needs to really participate in the OTAs. I think he's going to know the defensive scheme there, so I think they're going to get him. They added Devontae Adams. Hopefully, Puka's back fully healthy this year. They did lose Cooper Kupp. I don't think that's as big of a deal as some might say. And they still got Sean McVay there, so I think the Rams are going to jump 2 games this year. I think they're going to go from 10-7 last year to 12-5 this year. For Seattle, this is a pretty interesting team. I got Seattle last year. They were 10-7. They did have Geno Smith there. They did have DK. They did have Tyler Lockett. They have lost all those guys. I'm not a big Kenneth Walker believer. They brought Kupp on board, but I think losing DK and I think losing Tyler, I think Geno's a better quarterback than Sam Darnold. I don't know if you agree with that or not.
I'd say he's probably more reliable. You probably know what you're going to get with Geno more than you do with Sam.
Yeah. And Darnold going from a dome with Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to a pretty shitty weather stadium come really late September, early October. That's when they start getting all that rain. So last year they were 10-7. Excuse me, guys. This year I have them going 8-9. I think they missed the playoffs. And I don't think Sam Darnold is their quarterback next year. I think they look elsewhere. All right, so Arizona, they were third in division last year. They were 8-9. I actually see Arizona staying put at 8-9. They added Walter Nolan to help shore up that D-line. They added Will Johnson, the cornerback from Michigan, who just inexplicably fell so far into that second round. A lot of people thought he was the number one corner. I know he had the injury coming into the draft that people were worried about. That might end up being the steal of the draft, getting him so late.
One thing about the draft is they want reliability.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, last second, he has this somewhat unreliable thing that maybe they tried to hide a little bit to keep his draft position.
Yeah.
I don't think it's that bad, or he would have fell more.
Yeah. And they spent 6 of their 7 picks on defense, which was their big weakness last year. They still got Junior there. They still got Kyler Murray, which I'm not in love with Kyler Murray right now. And then they got Trey McBride, who I think is a top 3 tight end in the NFL. So I think they're going to stay put at 8-9. I think you see their head coach either fired at the end of the year, or I think you see Kyler Murray with a different jersey on next year. I don't think they both can stay if you miss the playoffs again. And then for the Niners, the interesting Niners. They were 6-11 last year. I got them jumping 4 games. I got them going 10-7. They drafted Williams, the D end out of Georgia, to help Bosa on the line. They also drafted Alfred Collins, I believe, the D tackle out of Texas. So that's also going to help with the line. CMC's health scares me. I don't know if he's going to be back to CMC. I don't think he'll ever be.
I have to write him off because every time I put him in a pool or in a fantasy team, he fucks something up and he's out for the year.
Yeah.
And I mean, I've taken him as my first pick in these things. And like, I think last year they actually lied about his injury because I took him 5th overall, first in a yardage pool. And he played 2 games on week 9 and 10 or something like that. So he's really, really unreliable. And that being said, the minute you give up on CMC, he puts 1,400 yards on.
He might. So
what do you do?
His health, Trent's health also. Williams has got to play a full year at left tackle. I know he's old. I think he's 38, which is unheard of for a left tackle to be playing at 38. He's got to come back. He's got to play healthy this year. Purdy's got to play all the games this year, and he's got to stay healthy. So
he's got to play like a $50 million quarterback that they paid him.
Yeah, and so you have your three. I would say those are your three best weapons on offense. You got Trent, CMC, and Purdy, and they all kind of got health issues attached to them right now. So for me, that scares me. They lost Debo, they lost Greenlaw, they lost Hargrave, plus 1,000 other starters. So for me, that's always a little scary. I'm going to believe in Kyle Shanahan and hope. My belief is not, I don't have a long string of belief in him, though. He's got to show me right off the hop this year that he is worthy of that elite head coaching thing that somehow he has, even though he's never gotten over that hump. So I got them from.
He's got there.
He's got
there, but he hasn't brought the trophy home.
No, and even when he was with the Falcons and he blew that 20-3 lead because he just wouldn't run the ball. He's got that connotation with him that he can't win the big game. It's like he gets that big game and then there's that mental block.
He wins all the games until
the big one.
Yeah.
So they were 6-11 last year. I got them going 10-7 this year. That D line, I think, as long as Bosa is healthy and Williams and Collins are kind of all they're hyped up to be, I think that they're going to have one of the top 5 defensive lines. And they got Robert Saleh back, which I think is going to be a big thing because Bosa played unreal under Saleh. So that defensive scheme, again, the problem with the Niners is just that every year you're just wondering what's the health like on that team. Ricky Pearsall also needs to make that second year jump for me. They got rid of Debo, so he might be the number 1 to start the year too if Ayuk is not fully healthy from that ACL tear. So for me, there is a lot of questions, but I thought the Niners had one of the best drafts this year. They took exactly what they needed. They didn't double up. Instead, they doubled down. They didn't take 2 D tackles. They took the best one when it came to. I thought he was one of the best ones. Was Collins out of Texas. I thought he was one of the better ones.
The Texas defense was, if not number 1, number 2 in the college this year.
Yeah,
they had an amazing.
And I think Georgia was number 1, and they took their best D end in Williams. So, the Niners are going to be an interesting one. With that said, I still think the Rams win, but I think you're going to see this year is going to be a make or break for the Niners. This year is going to be, do you blow the whole team up, or can you win with what you got if you just add a few more pieces here and there?
You'll know at the trade deadline. You'll know at the trade deadline what they're going to do. If they start trading off people for draft picks, then they've decided.
The problem is that all the guys that they're going to want to trade are on big contracts. Who's going to want to take CMC's contract? Who's going to want to take Ayuk's contract?
Well, I don't think CMC is going to be anywhere because of his injuries and that. However, if he is, and you've got somebody who feels they're just a running back short of a Super Bowl, they're going to go for it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess so, yeah. And then, so CMC's health, I think, is the big lingerer. Although Kyle Shanahan can turn any running back into a 1,000-yard running back, it seems. So,
but we're going to have a lot of differences in this one.
Yeah, so I still think the Rams come out of the West, but I think the Niners go from the basement to second place.
I think the Rams are the only team in the NFL last year and for I don't know how many years who won their division with a plus-minus of under 0. They were a minus. They were 19-point minus between what they scored and what they scored against them. And they still won that division at 10-7.
But that defense didn't. I think that's a little skewed for them because I don't think their defense came on until about mid-ish way.
Well, they had their injuries too.
Yeah. Puka missed.
They didn't finish the year on a winning streak in the regular season or the playoffs for that matter. I think they're going to miss Cup a lot more than people think. To me, when I watch the tape and watch the games, I would see these odd, silly little things. But he was the best, at least top receiver in the league at being a blocking receiver. Puka gained a lot of yards after the catch based on what Kupp did. So I think they'll miss that. I'm going to go say, and I've probably been saying for a few years, but Stafford's washed up. Too much injuries, too much age, slowed down. The game's getting faster. The defenses are getting faster. And, in that division, you're going to Seattle and Arizona. The Rams had 386 points against. Arizona had 379. They had less points against. They ended up 8-9. And they bolstered their defense. So, I'm going to agree about Kyler Murray. It's put up or shut up time for Kyler Murray if he goes. And then you got the Seahawks. Now, Sam Darnold is... I always say, do not ever judge a New York Jets quarterback from when he played on the New York Jets. Because they have ruined every quarterback that's come their way in 30 years.
Them and the Bears.
They've just ruined them. They've ruined them. And I think even Zach Wilson down in Miami, if he gets a chance to play, you'll see he's a lot better than he was when he was on the Jets. And you might even see that with Aaron Rodgers this year, for heaven's sakes. But I think that Darnold was in a great situation last year. He had a perfect landing spot.
Oh, yeah. That was the best
best
one.
Of course, hate to say it, but fortunate because of the injury. For Darnold, it was fortunate because of the injury to JJ that he got all that playing time. He's not on the Minnesota Vikings. He does not have the same coaching, the same coordinators, and he sure doesn't have the same receivers. So, he probably won't do as good. But, from 14-3 to, say, 11-6, which is somewhere. My son has no confidence in Kenneth Walker anymore. I think that's because he has him in fantasy and he didn't do perfect for him.
He hasn't done anything for I've had him for, this is what, his
and
third year?
There's Charbonnet in there, too, and Seattle's kind of... They're promoted as always having the running backs. They've got the running game, but they're just not at that top-tier running game.
Well, and the other thing, too, for Seattle, this is the thing that confused me about Seattle. They have two running backs, they have a quarterback, and I think they needed offensive line, and then, what was it, in the third round, they drafted Jalen Milroe.
I was going to get to him.
The guy can't throw a fucking football to save his life. Like, if it wasn't for Ryan Williams at Alabama last year, our offense would have just been dog shit there. It was tough watching Jalen Milroe play quarterback. They should convert him to either a running back or a tight end, because I'm going to tell you now, Seattle fans, if you have any hope for this guy coming from an Alabama fan that watches Alabama every week, don't. Because he is not the guy for you. They keep talking about him being Cam Newton this or Cam Newton that. Cam Newton was one of the best college players ever. Ever. And they're comparing it to a guy that he couldn't even win at Alabama.
Jalen Milroe is going to win those guys' games.
No, he's not.
They're going to put him in.
No, he's not.
They're gonna scheme him.
Not unless he's a running back.
They're gonna scheme him. Well, he'll probably be running it most of the time.
If they scheme him, it better not be for throws. Because I can tell you know what it's going to look like? Go watch the Detroit Lions where Jameson Williams threw the ball in the playoffs there and he got picked off. That's what it's going to look like with Jalen Milroe over and over and over, especially in that division with those defenses.
He'll just be throwing those deep bombs.
Oh, he can't throw it deep.
Seattle could easily win that division because both those teams, like I say, were 10-7. I don't think the Rams do any better. I don't think they do any better. Will they do worse? I'm going to say they drop another game. You can't be minus 19 and stay at 10-7. That's unsustainable. That's a word I'll use a few times in how some of these teams are performing. Seattle, on the other hand, I like Darnold. They're reshaping their receivers. I think they're going to stay with the running backs. I don't think the running backs are that bad.
Well, you still got
their offensive coordinator is going to have to step it up a bit. He's going to have to step it up a bit. Geno Smith, he wasn't the best quarterback, but the guy had a cannon for an arm. And he had the receivers to use that.
I was going to say, I don't even know if it was so much Geno more that I trust in Darnold, but he had, having Tyler Lockett as wide receiver 3, that's an embarrassment of riches, really, for a quarterback. Like, I know Lockett's not the Tyler Lockett he was 3 years ago, but for a wide receiver 3, when you've got JSN,
still had a couple of top games last year, though.
Yeah, and you got JSN and you had DK. It's not like Tyler Lockett. I think this year that that receiving core went from a very high-end one to really, if you cover JSN, I mean, who else on that offense scares you?
I kind of think of JSN as you think of Kenneth Walker. I haven't been convinced yet.
Well, he had that good year last year when he finally got the chance.
I think he'll have his chance. So I'm going to actually flip the script on that and give the Seahawks 11-6.
11-6?
And take, I'm going to so there'll be one more win than they had last year. And the Rams will have one more or more, but I'll just say one more loss.
Really?
Putting them at 9-8. The Rams, they're going to flirt with 500. Now, I wouldn't be surprised if they go 8-9. That's just sort of the thought process of what I got. Then there's Arizona. Well, what are they going to do?
Hold on. That could be a real nice bet for us. You think the Rams are going to drop that much?
They'll drop at least one game, if not two. They'll drop at least one game. At least.
We might have to make a little bet at the start of the season there on the Rams winning that division. Because
I'm in on that bet.
I like
Anytime.
that. I like that.
Arizona's 8-9, and believe it or not, they're third in the division, but they have the highest plus minus with plus 21. How do you finish behind two other teams and only above the woeful San Francisco 49ers when you have the highest plus minus?
See, I wonder though if how some of those games can be, how those stats can be skewed by certain games.
Well, they will be, but still at minus 19, that means that you're winning a lot of close games.
Yeah, but if say one game Kyler puts up 40, which
points.
we know we can,
Yeah.
and they only let up, 5, or, they let up like 15 or something, or 14, that's a huge plus minus for them. But then they could have a bunch of close games. That's why those...
Right. And that's why I think the more close games you have, the more games 3 points and under you have, the more likely you are to lose one or two of them next year.
Yeah.
And when you're winning by 7, 10, 17, stuff like that, I mean, if you're the Detroit Lions with a plus 222, by the way, just that division has a Detroit at plus 222, Minnesota at plus 100, and the Packers plus 122. Those guys are going to keep winning games when you got that kind of plus minus.
That's crazy.
But when you got a minus 19 and you're 10-7, easily 9-8, if not 8-9.
Hey, just remember though, as Pats fans, what did we always say the greatness of Tom Brady was?
And Bill Belichick is how to pull out a win.
They win the close games, and it's the same thing with Mahomes last year.
Yeah,
those guys.
I hate Mahomes.
If Stafford and McVay can keep doing that, then it's one of those things where those when you have those good quarterbacks and those great coaches, right?
But at minus 19, I actually kind of see the Rams going into a rebuilding mode. And by that, I mean, basically, you're going to have to rebuild around the quarterback. You're not getting rid of Puka. He's too young. He's too good.
Well, their whole defense, too, they're not even really paying anyone big on their defense because they're all young.
They got some decent cap space there, too. So but that's and I honestly think that this will probably be the last year you see the Los Angeles Rams led.
You think so, by Stafford?
Led by Matt Stafford. I don't see him being there.
I think if they can keep him clean and healthy this year, that line, I think he plays another year.
Yeah.
Problem is that he took such a fucking beating in Detroit because they were terrible for all those years.
For many years on artificial turf.
Do you remember?
It's a dome. The artificial turf is
tough.
Much, much harder on the players' knees and bodies and everything. Much, much tougher.
Do you remember? I can't remember who they were playing. Stafford took a hit in Detroit. And he goes down, he's saying, I separated my shoulder. And he comes in the next play and throws a touchdown. It's like
a sidearm touchdown.
You got it. Like,
figure out how to throw it.
Yeah, you got to know that, like that. But the body is going to break down eventually. You can't keep doing that when he was young. Sure. So that's why I think they got to keep him healthy. So what? So sorry.
I don't think that you can keep a quarterback healthy unless you're just letting him throw the ball away all the time. And Stafford won't do that.
Well, they got good.
He has an incredible range on his arm. He can throw on his arm better, even more than Patrick. In fact, I've watched Patrick Mahomes in all of them, how he can just find a hole somewhere and adjust his arm and his shoulder and whip that ball through there. But he's getting old. He's had shoulder problems. He's had back problems. He's had neck problems. And it's just going to all mount up. So that's where I see the Rams. I see the Rams at 9-8 or more likely even 8 and 9.
Okay, so you got the Rams at 9 and 8. You got
Seahawks. The Seahawks, I am going to say they stay exactly the same.
10 and 7.
I say they're going to stay 10 and 7. We'll see what Darnold does. We'll see what the new receiving does, and how Darnold. It's not that you have new coaching in that, but you do to Darnold. When your quarterback's got new coaching and new coordinators, the coaching matters a lot.
Yeah.
And how he fits in and how they view him. So I'm going to say that Seattle will actually stay the same. Arizona, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they do one better.
So they're going to go 9 and 8.
They're going to go 9 and 8. There's no reason they shouldn't go 10 and 7. There's no reason they shouldn't go 12 and 5, but they seem to find a way to lose.
So we're basically the same on them. Okay.
And then the 49ers, well, I don't want to make any bold predictions on the 49ers because I'd like to tell you they're going to win that division. And they should, but they're not going to. Their team just doesn't have it. Again, your best player is Christian McCaffrey. And there's just massive unknownness around him. There's massive potential injury. There's massive potential that he plays less than 5 games.
Yeah.
And when that's your best player, and if he was playing the best at that position in the league, if he was healthy like he was like 3 years ago, then you have a lot of questions to be answered. And you can't assume. This is a situation where you can't assume he's going to be okay. You more likely have to lean on the side that he's not going to play half those games at least.
So if you had, say it was an even money bet and his games played was 7.5 this year, are you going over or under?
I'm going under.
You're going under.
I'm going under. I'm going under because of last year and how they held out and how they did bring him back, and then he still missed the last 5, 6.
Well, he got hurt again, right?
So my thoughts for him, and I don't like the idea of the old running back. I hate that idea, but he is what you young pups call it, an old running back.
Yeah.
But with a huge...
Yeah, he doesn't have the durability that like Derrick Henry had or anything like that. So
Christian McCaffrey has caught a lot of balls, and receivers, they get hit harder than a running back does because they're out in open field and they get the open field hits and they're hard. Running backs are usually just stuffed at the line of scrimmage and have their face rubbed in the mud and
running backs take more hits.
They take more hits.
But the problem is he's taking the more hits and the harder hits.
But they're like running into a wall. You see these linemen, they're massive.
Yeah.
And they plug holes and they plug gaps. That's what they get paid to do. And he's just running into a wall that he can't get around. Out there, you've got like a Mack truck running at you.
Well, that's the thing.
And you're running faster as a receiver than you are as a running back.
So he's taking the hits in the backfield and in the holes and stuff like that, and then he's also taking them out wide. It's like that's the one thing I think that maybe gave Derrick Henry some longevity is that he didn't catch those like suicide passes and stuff like that McCaffrey caught, right? And even as receivers, like look at how those guys come down on themselves sometimes. Oh. Right? Yeah. Landing on shoulders and backs, and then you're a running back, you're going back in there, and then you're getting fucking pile drive by a 350-pound D tackle.
And don't forget, too, as a running back, you're also doing a lot of blocking. And you're blocking big, fast, strong men.
Well, yeah, you're doing chip blocks and this and that. He's hitting guys like Myles Garrett, that, yeah.
So you add all that up, and again, I mean, you got a guy like Derrick Henry at his age. Saquon Barkley's really not that old, even though they're kind of saying that he is. And they're surviving.
Well, I think,
but they're not taking the hits that CMC is. They're a different body. They're a different style, and they haven't had the injuries. Once the injuries start piling up on these guys, their careers are over.
Well, I think so. CMC and Barkley, I think, are the same age. But here's the difference: is that Barkley is going to be running behind the number 1 or number 2 offensive line again. Which I know he had 350 carries last year, but you guys watch some of those carries, man. He can go. Sometimes it's 30, 40, 50, 60 yards, and he's not even touched. There's McCaffrey. I mean, I guess his first year in San Fran, they had a great line. But since then, and when he was in...
he's bouncing off the people to get his yards.
Yeah.
Kind of like what Derrick Henry does, too. But Derrick Henry is a straight-ahead beast, and McCaffrey is made for the agility.
Derrick Henry's a linebacker playing running back. All right, so it's for the Niners.
I will say San Fran just does one game better just because they should. Pretty much anybody who's at the bottom of the league or bottom of their division should at least win one more game this year. So I'll go with them going 7-10.
Okay. All right, we will move on to the NFC South. So last year the Bucs won it at 10-7. I actually have the Bucs going 13-4 this year. Evans hopefully plays all the games again. They added Emeka Egbuka in the draft, who I think is maybe the best wide receiver in the second best. I got Tet ahead of him.
Yeah. Some people, it was back and forth when you look at a lot of the ratings going in. Some had Inuka and some had Tet. Myself, I think Tet is the superior one only because of his size. It's incredible. His reach is incredible.
Oh, yeah.
It's like Mike Evans.
Yeah. So
Mike Evans has a very unfair advantage on a lot of corners. And it's about 18 inches of reach more that he has.
Yeah. So I think, too, a sneaky ad that they added, because I think Godwin's going to be slow for the first 9 or 10 weeks. They added Tez Johnson out of Oregon, the wide receiver. I know it was a late pick. I think he's going to be a sneaky ad this year for them. Their tight ends are okay. They're okay. They got a great line. Hopefully Mayfield can play just as good as he did last year, because he played pretty damn good. The defense is going to have to step it up a little bit. Bucky Irving looked like the real deal when he came in last year, so they got Bucky.
There's a lot of hating going on about Bucky coming in this year, and I don't understand it, because I think, as the year gone on, he earned his starting job, and I thought he just took off with it.
So did I.
The surprise of the year.
My big thing that scares me is that they did lose Liam Cohen. So how does that offense look this year? That's always kind
Liam
of
Cohen was the offensive coordinator extraordinaire.
Yeah,
and everybody knew he was getting a head coach job with the job he did.
Yeah,
and he's a player's coach.
Yeah, they love him. So he got the job down there in Jacksonville.
So I don't envy the guy who's coming in, even though he's got Baker to work with and Godwin and Ibuka,
Evans and Bucky and
right and Houghton. I don't envy the guy because he has big shoes to fill. It's going to be hard to do.
Yeah. So they were 10-7 last year, but I got them going 13-4 this year. Second in that division was the Falcons. They were 8-9 last year. I think that they go 10-7. I think they get a couple more wins. They added Walker out of Georgia. That should really help that defense. Atlanta's defense was porous last year. I think that's a big one. They also added James Pierce Jr., the D tackle there. They were both first-round picks, so they've picked... They need a pass rusher. They needed a linebacker. They got Walker, I think, was the best linebacker in this draft. And then Pierce was one of the top DNs, I think, rated pretty much going in. Everyone had it like that. Spending 2 first-round picks on your defense when your defense is atrocious is always a good thing. So I think they jump a little bit. I think it is going to rely a little bit on Michael Penix this year, though. He's going to have to take that next step. Yeah.
It's the unknown factor.
The Panthers. So I think the Panthers have. So they were 5-12 last year. I got them going 7-10 this year. I think it's not a big jump, but I think that those 2 games are going to be super important that they win this year to prove that they can put stuff together. So they got Tet, who, like I said, I think is the best receiver in the draft. Bryce has got to take that next step.
Big jump.
Yeah, and then they got the Canadian.
He kind of showed that he could do it, though. I mean,
yeah, after getting benched, he really
and sitting behind Andy Dalton. And I tend to think that Andy Dalton is a very smart man.
Oh yeah,
he knew his career is in the limelight, and I hope he helped the kid a lot. I think he did, because when he injured his thumb in the car, of all things, in a car accident, his thumb. Bryce came in and he looked like a totally different quarterback than what we saw at the beginning of the year.
And for me. I mean, also, too, shout out to Chuba Hubbard, the Canadian boy back there, running back. So I think that the Panthers take a jump. I don't think this is their year. But if Tet is what he's all cracked up to be, Jalen Coker maybe takes that next step as well too. They got Leggett there. I worry about him a little bit. Bryce takes that jump though. So not this year, but I think next year I might pick them to win the division, depending on what I see out of them this year. So they got to do that. And then the Saints, they're awful. I think they're the worst team in the NFL. They were 5-12 last year. I think they go 2-15. I think they got the number 1 pick. I think they try to get Arch Manning to come home where
his grandfather,
Archie. Played
the original Archie man.
So for me, I got nothing to say about the Saints. They're awful. Yeah. Trade Alvin Kamara, get him a chance at a ring. Trade him to the Chiefs. Trade him to somewhere. Just give him a damn chance to
and
win.
get something for him.
Yeah, even if it's a fifth, I don't care, but give him a chance, and then no one else on that team scares you. Olave's one hit away from wearing a helmet outside the arena. Yeah. For me, I don't like anything. I hated the Saints draft. They drafted, like my dad called him on our last podcast, Brandon Whedon 2.0, a 26-year-old rookie.
27.
20, yeah.
7 years in college football, and he finally was good in his 7th year while he's playing against little boys.
Yeah, so for me, the Saints are just awful. So I think they go from 5-12. I think they go 2-15. I think they got the number 1 pick overall next year.
Yeah, I'll start at the top of the Bucs, but I gotta say about the Saints, they're going to be the only team at the bottom of a division that I pick to do even worse.
Yeah.
Usually when you're at the bottom, anything's better.
They got to go up. Also, too, the Saints also, I don't know why in the hell in like the third or the fourth, I thought they should have just spent 4 picks on a quarterback. How fucking long are you going to go without having a franchise quarterback? Like Derek Carr, you can say what you want, and shout out to Derek Carr for being, for everything that happened with his wife this year and him kind of stepping away from football. But he wasn't your guy. Your team's old. They should have taken Shador, Dylan Gabriel, Tyler Shaw. They should have traded back up and taken Jackson Dart. They got to find a quarterback. And
they had their shot at all those guys, and they passed on them.
But you know what? Like I will say, the one good thing that they have is they have the best tackle out of this draft
so far,
which is Calvin Banks. That's who I thought he was the best. I thought that was a steal for them at 10. But other than that, they're an awful team.
All right. Well, I'll start with the Bucs. My view, I believe Todd Bowles will be their coach for several years to come. Is that they're at the top of that division for several years to come. That's as it looks right now.
That wouldn't shock me either.
Last year, they put up over 500 points. 500 points. Baker's washed up. Baker's no good. I always said bullshit that. As I told you, don't ever judge a New York Jets quarterback over the New York Jets. Well, the same thing goes for the Cleveland Browns. Keep in mind, they came back to the league, I think, 99 or 2000.
Something like that.
And when Bailey Zappi went in and started the game at the end of last year, he was the 40th starting quarterback on the Cleveland Browns in that time.
Yeah.
They chew him up and spit him out.
Oh, yeah.
Baker was their savior. He comes in, he starts winning games, and he loses one. Oh, he's no good. Get him out of there.
Well, there's 3 teams in the NFL that just, if a quarterback comes from there, you can't hold against them. The Jets, the Browns, and the Bears. They haven't had a franchise none of them have had a franchise quarterback. And the one guy that was winning them games, Mark Sanchez in New York, they fucking chased him out of town. Sure, he wasn't the greatest, but he was. So for me, I didn't hold anything against Baker Mayfield when he left there. I was glad he left there. I was glad that he went to the Rams and got to be under Sean McVay for
he goes to the Rams
on
a Wednesday and plays Sunday and wins.
Yeah, and I'm glad that he got to be with Sean McVay, and I'm glad that he got Liam Cohen last year because you saw, I think he was quarterback 4 or 5 in dynasty rankings for points. So, yeah.
So the Bucs at 10-7, again, I think I'm going to go a little bit less than I'm going 12-5. I see them winning a few more games.
Yeah.
They were plus 117. They put up 502 points. You're putting up points like that, you're going to keep on winning. Nothing has happened to the Bucs to say that they're going to be worse this year. And a few things in the draft happened. They're going to make them even better.
Yeah.
So the Bucs at 10-7 is a slam dunk. They're going to be better. And I'm just going to say just 2-5, or sorry, just 12-5, and not be in the least bit shocked if it's even better than that. The Falcons, the fuck up Falcons.
They're always.
I know what we should do. Let's go find a quarterback and pay him hundreds of millions of dollars and bench him for a rookie. I mean, they just find a way. And if you don't think the Falcons can find a way to fuck things up, you should learn the 28-3 story. That's right. That's a score they were up in the Super Bowl that they lost.
Yeah.
They just always find a way to blow it in the end. The Falcons went 8-9. Like no one else even got 500 there. I can't put any faith in Michael Penix until I see him. And the biggest reason I can't put any faith in him is because he's in Atlanta. They got good wide receiver for him. They got the number 1 guy who should be a top 5 wide receiver.
Well, so in Dynasty last year he was. Drake London was a top 5.
Top 5?
Yeah.
And Darnell Mooney came on at the end, and he was actually a big thing for them.
Then there's that
Kyle Pitts.
that fucking bum at tight end, Kyle Pitts.
Kyle Pitts,
The best thing since sliced bread coming out of college, and he's done nothing.
Yeah, he had one.
Yeah, his rookie year was good.
Half a good year as a
Yeah.
rookie. But they've got the weapons.
Oh yeah, Bijan and Tyler Algieri in the back.
God. So Tyler Algieri, they draft him as a rookie. He gets over 1,000 yards. So next year they go and spend the 8th overall pick on another running back who also gets over 1,000 yards.
Oh yeah, Bijan's
And still they're 8-9. So my beef with Atlanta isn't the players; it's the coaching and the ownership. Well, not even really the GM, but the management in general of the entire team. So I don't have a reason to think they'll do any better. Well, I don't know that they can do any worse. I'll actually literally sit there and keep them 8-9.
I think that the Falcons, Raheem Morris there, I think that they drafted him. He's a defensive guy. They drafted a great pass rusher and an elite linebacker for him this year. If they go under 500, he's got to go. He's you got to get him out of there. You can't have him stick around and wreck Michael Penix and wreck that team because Penix is on his rookie deal. This is when teams now usually have to win. So, because Penix and Bijan and all those guys are going to be coming up for contracts, and you're going to have to pay them. And so Raheem Morris he's got to go if they go under 500 again this year. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, he's got a not so good record. So
no.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to keep him and go for a different quarterback or things like that. And I don't know, Michael Penix has to be pretty bad to give up on him already, and I don't think that's going to happen.
No, I think that he's going to have a 2 to 3 year runway here and what was he, 8th overall or 10th overall, something like that. He was 8 to 10. So what do you have the Falcons going? You got them staying the same?
I'm going to have them stay exactly the same.
8-9. Okay.
They're really good and they should be better, but they screw everything up and they're always worse. So I'll just keep it 8-9. Carolina Panthers. Bryce Young. Well, he proved he can get better, but defensively, they let up 534 points.
Yeah, they're going to have to do something about that.
534 points. How do you get better than 5-12 with that defense? You know?
They got to do something.
They were like a minus 193. I don't know. That might have been the worst in the league, but they were like a minus 193. To win games, that has to shrink immensely.
Yeah,
and absolutely immensely. Putting up 341 points puts you in the middle of the pack, but kind of the lower middle. But if your defense is giving up that many points, that means you don't have the ball in your hands very often.
No,
and that defense has got to get the pigskin back into the offense's hands. And until that happens, well, you can't blame Bryce Young for not having 4,000 yards throwing.
Yeah.
Oh, I had the ball for 2.5 minutes that game. It is. It's like the teams just marched downfield on them at will. So, I don't know. You've got to do something with your defensive coordinator. They had the 8th overall pick, and they went offense, but they went Tet. And I got to tell you, to me, I think that's worth it.
Oh, yeah.
That's well worth it.
Yeah, I would have taken Tet to get Bryce Young that true number one wide receiver. They
guy with that reach, if you watch his one-handed catches and then you lied about his hands not being this big. I don't give a shit. Watch the tape.
Yeah.
That guy catches footballs it like glue. He just puts his hand up and I don't know, he's like 12'8" with his hands in the air, it looks like. And his running ability is uncanny.
He's very smooth.
He's
very for a big guy. Sometimes those big guys are a little more clumsy. But
that was a knock on the big guys. That's why they don't usually be wide receivers. They make them tight ends.
But he runs like a guy that's like 6'1", not 6'5". So
and he should help the other receivers on the team. He'll stretch the field.
Yeah, he's going to get double coverage too. So they're going to be
help. But
singles.
Defensively, they've got to get better. And until they do, I like Tet being there. I like Bryce Young coming back. I'm going to give them 8 and 9. I think they're just going to sit in that.
Okay, so we're pretty close.
I don't think they quite hit 500 this year, but if they do improve to like 8 and 9, which is a 3-game improvement, and they draft well next year, then they can bounce up and finish in behind where I see Tampa Bay continuing to finish.
Okay.
And the Saints, again, the only team in the bottom that I think will do worse. Chris Olave, like I say, I feel bad for him, but he gets hit in the head one more time, his mom's going to have to feed him strained peas for lunch every day because that's all he's going to be able to eat. It's just, if you know people with concussions, and we do, it's a sad thing. It's a rough thing, and we know that they're a lot more prevalent in football than some people think. Players will try to hide them. We've seen quarterbacks get helped out by their teammates and thrown in the huddle and thrown up behind the center guy to do it. So I feel bad. I honestly don't think he has a career left in the NFL. And I say that with all due respect to all the talent and everything that he had, but he has got to take his health as the absolute priority in his life. He's got to have that health, and he is just, him and two are the two guys that come to mind. They're just, they're one hit away from the end of their career. So I don't want to bet on that. And besides the fact that he's going to have no help out there. He's going to have no help. They really put a quarterback in who's 27 years old, 7 years. Good. This is what this is like. Now, I spent the best 4 years of my life in grade 8, okay? Now, if I would have spent 7 years in grade 8, and I make the elementary school football team, and I'm the quarterback, and they go, holy fuck, that quarterback ever good. Yeah, it's because I'm 17 years old playing against 12-year-olds, right? And that's where Tyler Shuck is. And I thought when Whedon had that, I thought, oh, this is great. He comes in with all this experience and that. But it just proves that...
I told you, no.
It just proves that if you're not playing against the best, you're not getting better. You might look better, but you're not getting better. So New Orleans, I'll be nicer than you. I'll go 3-14, but they're probably going to lose more games.
Yeah. Okay, we will head to the NFC North.
Oh, yeah.
So this is going to be interesting. I actually have a lot of these teams either being just as good as they have or worse. So the Lions last year were 15-2. I got them going 12-5. I think they lost Ben Johnson. They lost Aaron Glenn. The health remains on Hutchinson there. Their defense just had so many injuries last year. Their center just retired like after the draft. I know that they've drafted what's his name there? They drafted the guy online that they've been starting at center anyways. But losing an elite center like that and then trying to replace it with a new offensive core. For me, the Lions, I think, take a step back. I still think that they win that division this year. But for me, the Lions were 15-2 last year. I got them going 12-5 this year. The Vikings. Now, so here's an interesting one. The Vikings were 14-3. Now, my dad, as you guys know, is a big J.J. McCarthy fan. I thought he was quarterback 5 coming out of that draft. So I would have had Caleb, Jaden, May, and Nix all ahead of him. And then I would have had JJ. Apparently he looked good in that one preseason game. They were saying they were super stoked. Then he tore his meniscus, which for some reason he missed a full year with a meniscus tear. I don't really know what that is. I think maybe that knee injury was a little bit worse than...
hiding a little bit.
Than what they told us. Obviously they're comfortable with it though because they let Darnold walk. So obviously their doctors must have cleared him.
They didn't want to pay a backup $20 million a year either.
Yeah, so they were 14-3 last year. I got them going 11-6. They drafted that guard out of Ohio State, something Jackson, and they added a lot of good players on defense that they needed. The thing is that their season's going to hinge on a rookie, and everyone knows when you got a rookie quarterback, there's growing pains. You're going to go through stretches where you look at him and say, why the hell did you throw that ball? And then there's going to be throws that he makes where you're like, holy shit, this is our guy, right? So I heard a good thing, and I've kind of always done it. Shady McCoy on the facility said that he never, ever, ever judges rookies. No matter what position they play, even a rookie head coach, he doesn't judge rookies. And I've kind of always felt that way where even though he's a top 10 pick and stuff like that, and they spent that on him, I think that you got to give him a year to get his feet under him. The NFL's hard. You listen to all these like ex-pros on the talk shows. They all say that the NFL's hard. Making that jump. So I think you got to give the rookie a year. I do think next year, as long as he shows that he is capable, I do think the Vikings actually win that division next year, though. This year, though, rookie pain. So they were 14-3 last year. I got them going 11-6 this year. The Packers, they were 11-6, and I got them at 11-6. I don't think much changes. Love better stay healthy this year. They paid him on one good year, and he did not have a good year last year. He definitely tried to play injured. Sorry. They drafted a wide receiver in the first round in
Matthew Golden.
70 years or whatever it was.
Yeah.
So
the second guy taken. Yeah. Actually, it was the third. Mika got it.
Mika.
Yeah, the third guy taken.
Matthew
Golden. If you watch the rankings throughout the year, wasn't even in there. Isaiah Bond, his teammate, was.
Yeah, that arrest.
And they were even talking about Isaiah Bond being the number one overall receiver early in the year. But as time went on, and if you watch those games, it was clear Matthew Golden was better than Isaiah Bond.
Yeah.
And his shot really stuck. And I'm always a little bit hesitant when someone's stock really shoots up. Jackson Dart's stock really shot up after the season was over, but not during. Matthew Golden started shooting up during the season. And you can see in the playoffs and that, he was the go-to guy. But it is based on, a few short games, and he is playing on one of the top teams.
Well, I think, too, with Isaiah Bond, that arrest, obviously.
Oh, that killed him in the end.
Yeah, and then, he was talking all that shit about how he was...
4.240, and you might as well run a 7-second 40 that he ran.
But so for me, they added Banks at guard, which I think is going to be a big help to Jordan Love, because his line last year was not very good. So adding Banks at guard is a big one. They did lose Alexander. We got a guy that we play Dynasty football with, TB there, and he's a big Packers fan. He doesn't seem to think it's going to be as big of a loss. He only played 14 games across the last two seasons.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Their defense wasn't great, though. I don't think losing a corner like that is not going to help you. That's for damn sure. But yeah, I got them staying about the same. And then the Bears. The Bears, they did a lot this offseason. Probably the most of any team again. They traded for those 3 interior linemen. They really shored up that line for Caleb. They drafted Luther Burden. They went out and got Ben Johnson, that was the guy that every single person wanted, right?
Between him, I kind of like Liam Cohen better, but between those two,
yeah, those were the guys, right?
Everybody wanted them. They seen what they did.
Yeah, and so for me, they were 5-12 last year. I got them going 8-9. So, they're the only team in that division that actually improves for me. But it can't be as bad as it was last year, because if it is, you gotta start looking and thinking, is what's going on with Caleb?
Jordan Love's gone. Sorry, the Bears. Sorry.
Yeah, the Bears. Yeah, sorry. The Bears. Yeah.
What's going on with Caleb? Well, so he's had his year in the league.
Well, if they go, even if he goes, say they win, even at 8-9, say they win 7 games this year, though. In his first 2 years, he's won 5 games and 7 games. I don't know if there's, outside of Patrick Mahomes walking into Casey, I don't know if a quarterback in his first 2 years has been given so many weapons and this and that and will have done nothing with it.
I don't think he had that many weapons.
We had DJ Moore last year, who Justin Fields had him as a 1,100, 1,200 yard guy. They had
Moore had his games with him too.
What's his name there? The other wide receiver that they got. I'm drawing a blank on his name because they drafted Burden. They drafted him last year, the rookie that they had last year there.
Oh yeah, he's supposed to. It's another Romeo or something.
Oh yeah, Rome Odunze. Yeah. So they had Odunze. They had Cole Kmet, who I know it's not everything, but in Dynasty football, he was tight end 7 back-to-back years.
He made He won a few of the games for him.
Yeah,
he had some absolutely massive games.
And now he's got all those guys plus Colson Loveland, plus.
Which is weird. They had
Luther Burden
doing so well that they brought in Colson Loveland, dual tight ends, whatever they're thinking there.
For me this year, Caleb, he better take that next step. So they were 5-12. I got them going 8-9.
All right. Well, if I start, Detroit's 15-2. They put up 564. They put up 60 more points than the Bucks did. They only had 342. They had a plus 222 in points. That's how you get 15-2.
Yeah.
But is that sustainable?
No.
That's the big question.
I don't think so.
I'm gonna downgrade them a bit just based on the fact that 15-2. That's gonna be hard to repeat.
Oh yeah.
Jared Goff is probably one of the best regular season quarterbacks ever in the NFL. But he doesn't win the big games. And I think some of these regular season games are going to be big games.
Well, they also have...
Their interdivisional games are going to be huge.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure I trust Goff to be that guy. I don't distrust him and everything. I mean, he silences his critics every year. He's again, they're doing their part at 15-2 to win. They're doing everything they can to win. But I just don't think it's sustainable. I'm only going to even just drop them one game because they have held on to pretty much everybody.
The Lions too. I just want to go over this real quick. They got a gauntlet of a schedule. They really got 2 give-me's all year. So week 1 they play the Packers. Week 2 they play the Bears. And let me tell you something. What are you going to do if Ben Johnson goes into Detroit and drops 40 on them? You're gonna feel real fucking demoralized,
You're gonna
probably.
laugh. That's
and
then
the next week they go to the Ravens. Then they got the Browns. That's probably one of their gimmies. Then they're at the Bengals. Then they're at the Chiefs. Then they got the Bucks coming to them. But the Bucks were one of the teams that beat them last year. So and the Bucks got better this offseason than the Lions did, in my opinion.
Yes.
Then you got the Vikings in week 9. You have to go to the Commanders in week 10. Then you got to
and look what the Commanders did in the playoffs.
Yeah, and then you got to
humiliated them.
And then you got to go to Philly in week 11. You got the Giants in week 12, so there's your other give me. Then you got the Packers in week 13, the Cowboys in week 14. Then you got to go to the Rams in week 15. You got the Steelers in 16. That might be a gimme depending on...
The last 3 are gimmies. They'll beat the Cowboys.
But then you got the Vikings in 17 at the Vikings, and then you got to go to Soldier Field in week 18. That's a fucking gauntlet. That's got to be one of the hardest schedules in recent memory.
If you're looking at based on their interdivisional, then the Packers and the Bears, especially the Bears, shouldn't be a problem. But when you go 15-2, you're going to get the toughest schedule.
But you also too next year. Remember,
and your divisional games are going to be tough. They always are.
And everyone is going to give you their best next year because you were 15-2.
Yeah. And they're watching the film Big and Bad and everything. So you lose the worst part about losing your coordinator is you lost them to an interdivisional rival.
That's a tough one.
And if Ben Johnson finds a way to beat the Lions, every team that's playing the Lions are going to be watching all that tape. Okay, he knows something. How did he expose them?
And the problem is that they play so fucking early in the year.
That's right. They play early in the year. So if the tape gets out,
it wouldn't be bad
if they can figure it out.
Yeah.
That's going to cost Detroit a few games.
And it sucks, too, because it's not like they play him again in week 7, where if the Lions came out and just shit-kicked them, it's like, okay, well, maybe he got lucky. They don't play him again until the last week. So you got 16 weeks.
15-2 is hard, but you're a plus 222. That's hard to bet against, too. But I'm going to go on the 13-4.
Okay. So we're
13-4 for the Lions.
Okay. So you got them at one more win than I do.
And I'm going to do Minnesota. I'm just going to have to drop a bit, only because... Not that Sam Darnold was a savior, but he sure was in Minnesota last year. He was just the right guy to bring in with the right people and do it.
But do you think that would have been any quarterback with that team?
No, I don't think Aaron Rodgers could have.
I don't know.
Sometimes you just find the right guy. Sometimes just the right coach. You've seen guys in all sports, middle of the road guys that they're just thrown in so they can finish a deal for the good guys. And they flourish where they go.
Yeah.
And Darnold had a lot to prove. Darnold made himself, at least $40 million more by doing what he did last year. So he had a lot invested.
Yeah.
Now you got a rookie coming in, Michael Penix. We don't really know a lot about him. Or sorry, J.J. McCarthy we're talking about.
Yeah.
J.J., who I loved when he was in college, and I thought he was the best quarterback. The thing about that always is, though, when you're on a team that good, it's easy to look good.
Yes, that is
It's
true.
very easy to look good. And that can be said of any team and any quarterback on those teams that made the college football playoffs. But only one of them is getting drafted. Well, actually, none of them in this case in the first round, second round. And they all got drafted later in the rounds, right?
Yeah, because Cam Ward didn't even make it there, yeah.
No, Cam Ward didn't. No. So that's kind of said, but I'm going to. And JJ, unfortunately, when you're any kind of a rookie and you're that big of a deal and you get a knee injury that keeps you out for your whole first year. I mean, Todd Gurley, he was supposed to miss the first 6 weeks of his rookie thing on a knee, and they're all going, that's too early. They're bringing him back too early. He only missed 3. He came in and lit it up, and I think he won the rushing championship that year. But that's not how it usually goes.
No.
That's not the standard. That's not what usually goes. So I'm a little worried. My JJ, I'm a little worried just because of that, and then the jitters he's going to have. And he's not trying to follow Kirk Cousins anymore. That's fucking easy to follow Kirk Cousins. And even if you weren't quite as good, it's Kirk Cousins. He's been in the league for 170 years and made $4 billion and won one playoff game. So it's going to be a little bit tough on them. So I don't think they'll do quite as good either. And so I'm going to drop them to 12-5. And even 12-5 is only because of the offensive prowess that they've got on that team.
Oh, yeah.
And the coaching staff,
and
the offensive coordinator. So, I mean, when you got Jordan Addison, who could be number one receiver on probably 13, 15, 16 teams in the NFL.
And he's a clear 2.
Yeah, and he's a clear 2.
Yeah.
And then you got Justin throw the ball within 30 feet of me and I'll catch it, Jefferson.
Yeah.
He's got some room. He's got a little bit of wiggle room there to be not exactly perfect, and hopefully those guys kind of bail him out a little bit and move on. But Minnesota, I'll just give them the 12-5. The Packers, oh my God, if they didn't draft Matthew Golden, I would make them even worse than what I'm going to. And Matthew Golden, I think is overrated and I think is overdrafted. But that being said, and I don't think it's an ideal landing spot for people in fantasy who drafted him. But Matthew Golden is going to stretch that field. He is going to help those other receivers get better. Therefore, he should be helping Jordan Love get better. They're going to have to play like, a double safety on him or something. They're going to have he's going to be like Tyreek Hill, where you got to have one guy get the first 20 yards, and when he runs out of breath, the other guy catches him and picks him up. He's going to stretch the field. He's going to allow, if the coordinator and the coaches are on the same page, and the quarterback and the receivers, they're going to find open alleyways to slide receivers into. And they might be shorter passes than what Golden's probably not going to catch the bombs. Well, he's a good route runner anyways. But even if he's not catching the balls, he's creating space for everybody else. So that makes Green Bay better. However, there's a lot of things that don't make them better, and starts with their injuries. It starts with their offensive coordinator. I'm not really overly sold on some of his schemings and things. And I think Green Bay, they got 2 games in Chicago that they're not going to win. They're not going to beat Chicago this year.
You don't think so, eh?
Stamped. Green Bay is going to go from 11-6, I think, to 9-7.
Okay.
And the Bears, look out, Bears. Stu said they've done more than anybody in the offseason to protect their quarterback. When we talk about the other side, we'll talk about Tennessee. They did a lot of the same things. But the Bears were very upfront. And they got Ben Johnson. They got a guy that whole team's going to rally around, and the coach. They got a quarterback, and the team has got to rally around Caleb Williams. I think Caleb Williams learned a lot last year. He learned, number one, you can't do that in the NFL.
Yeah.
And what is that? Well, all these little sneaky moves he made here and there that he always got away with. He knows which ones he's not getting away with now. He knows which ones he is getting away with. He's got to not get into situations that he can't get out of. He did too much running backwards. They were 5-12. I wish we could see just what the last 10 games they played were, because he was better. He had learned. And even if they weren't winning those games, they were keeping them closer. So now that they've gone and they've said, we're building around Caleb Williams. And they did. They went out and they got the people to protect him. Forget about getting a quarterback receivers. If you're not protecting them, your receivers, I don't care who you're getting in there, they're not going to do any good.
Yeah.
So they protected their quarterback. Luther Burden, kind of an odd act. Again, at some point, people had him ahead of Tet. I've watched the tape on him.
I just don't get that pick,
Some people don't like the attitude in that. I think he is that good.
But do you get that pick where they already have two clear receivers, then they take Loveland.
They take Loveland, I think, 10th overall?
Yeah, something like that. And then they've got...
They have Komet. Now, Colston Loveland, the Tyler Warren is supposed to be all this and all that. And I watched the tape in Penn State, and I absolutely love Tyler Warren. Well, I would have picked Drew Allure this year, too, if he came into the league, but he didn't.
They were saying that people were calling the Bears because they wanted Loveland at 10, which is odd because everything that... I mean, we watched a bunch of different... dynasty ranking shows and mock drafts and this. I don't remember seeing Colson ahead of Tyler.
I did see him a few times, but here's the thing with Colson Loveland. Number one, he's 21 or 22. Tyler Warren is actually 25 or 26 when the season starts. So
I thought he was 24 when he got drafted.
And then maybe 25 then when the season starts. So there's that, and that might not mean much to people, but again, if you're 25 making a great season compared to, I think it was 19 or 20 when Colson Loveland had his big season.
Oh, so sorry.
His last season wasn't that good.
So Tyler Warren is actually only 23. And he just turned 23 on May 24th, actually. So he was a 2002 baby.
Yes, okay, so I don't know where I was getting this stuff.
Maybe he just played. I wonder if he played a lot of years in college. I wonder if he went early, because when you look at it.
But the big thing with Loveland, I tell you, is that they say he's a far better blocker. And that's going to have him on the field more, but not necessarily getting fantasy points. The fantasy drafts, you have to understand, nobody gives a shit about your win-loss record.
No, we don't care.
Nobody cares about how many balls you fucking drop as long as you're catching a bunch and getting points. Nobody cares that you didn't quite get that first down because you got the catch in 9 yards. That's 1.9 points for me.
Yeah.
So there's a big difference between the fantasy and then let's call it reality of the NFL.
Yeah.
And taking Colston Loveland, that also helps. They already went out and got the lineman in that, right?
Yes. And they didn't waste it.
Now you got Caleb Williams with a tight end that maybe is a better blocker than Cole Kmet. Maybe they can cycle those guys in and out, 2 tight end packages and everything like that. It's just another big step. Both of their first picks, their 2 first picks in this draft, were very, very, very highly rated offensive linemen. Offensive men.
Offensive players, yeah.
Let's call Colston Loveland a receiver because he's probably going to put up 800 yards as well as block.
I don't know. I just felt like Chicago just needed so much more. And I thought for them, they should have taken Amari Hampton at 10. Because for me, DeAndre Swift is not that guy.
There was a lot of talk that
Genty would go there.
Genty was going to go 12th to the Cowboys,
but I didn't think,
and then 10th to the Bears, and then finally 6th. And as you know, I had first pick in our big dynasty league that we play in, and I wanted him at the Raiders so bad. If he didn't go to the Raiders, I was even considering trading him for the right package of picks.
I don't think that they needed a tight end. I think that Kmet would have done fine. I don't think Kmet was going to go for 1,000 yards, but I also don't think that Colston's going to go for 1,000 either. So for me, Amari and Hampton, I thought that they could have used that way more. I mean, they didn't have to spend their picks on linemen because they traded for 3 of them. So for me, I didn't love their draft. You didn't really need a wide receiver. You didn't need a tight end. You could have had Loveland, and you could have had, maybe another defensive guy where they took Luther there. But I guess you got an offensive head coach, and he wants certain players, and maybe you see a guy like DJ Moore and Cole Kmet get traded towards the start of the season if a team suffers an injury or something.
It would have been interesting because the Bears had the 39th overall picks, the second round. They had the 39th overall pick. And the Patriots had the 38th. And I actually thought the Patriots should have taken Luther Burden.
Yes.
I thought they were going to take Luther Burden. and then get a running back in the third round, because there's still good running backs available in the third round.
Yeah.
They went the opposite way. I do love Trevion Henderson, but getting back to the Bears and what they did, had the Pats taken Luther Burden, I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears would have taken the running back then. I don't think their backfield's good.
No, it's not.
I don't.
I don't think so either.
I don't know what they're hoping on. Maybe they're hoping on something, but at least their receiving core, it got vastly improved.
Well, I'm wondering if they're just relying on Caleb Williams throwing the ball 35 times a game this year. You got Ben Johnson there.
I don't see why quarterbacks aren't throwing the ball 30 times every game at least. Honestly, don't.
Yeah.
I mean, you got to have a defense to get you the ball back because you want to run it. I don't see anything wrong with running the ball 25 times a game either.
No. So
But if you're going to get 50 plays, you have to do that. So Chicago, I'm going to boost them right up there. I think they're in the 8-9, 9-8 range. I'm going to actually go a little bit and go 9-8. I think they're going to break 500 this year.
Okay.
Because they made those improvements.
Okay. All right, we will go to the NFC East. We'll start with Philly. Now, this is a division I know where we don't agree, but so Philly was 14-3 last year. I actually got them going 11-6. Philly lost a bunch of good players on defense. And I know if anyone can replace him in the draft, it's going to be Howie Roseman. They did get Jahad Campbell out of Alabama, which I thought was an absolute steal at the end of the first round there.
Yeah.
But they lost a lot of guys. They lost a lot of defensive starters.
This is the problem with being successful and winning Super Bowls.
Yep.
And let's give credit where credit's due here. They put a lot of points on the board, but that defense absolutely smothered the best player in the NFL for the last 5 years. They smothered him.
Excuse me. Yes.
And they got credit for it. They got a lot of credit. They got a lot of tape, a lot of things shown.
Oh, yeah.
Now they want to get paid.
Oh, yeah. And a lot of them did, right?
And these teams want that. Hey, do you see what he did to Mahomes? Do you see what he did to Mahomes? If they were doing that to Jared Goff, it would have been, yeah, okay, now, yeah. I want their offense. But they were doing that to Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And, they're highly sought after a bunch of guys. And Philly couldn't pay them all, so they walked.
Yeah. So I got Philly going from 14-3 last year to 11-6 this year. Now for the Commanders. They added Debo. They added Conley Jr. at tackle, which they desperately needed because Jaden Daniels was getting killed behind that line. Luckily, he can move.
Oh, he can move.
So they re-signed and they signed a lot of defenders that they needed to shore up that defense because that defense was not great last year. They were 12-5 last year. I have them taking a step back at 10-7. I always worry about that the sophomore slump for the quarterbacks. Maybe Daniels isn't that guy, but I know last year going into the year, if you told everyone that CJ Stroud was going to have the sophomore slump, people would have said you're fucking nuts. But he did, and these defensive coordinators are fucking geniuses because once they get tape on you, man,
they can. And then with a rookie, it might take a whole year. But once they get tape, it's a whole different ballgame. Everything that you thought you could do last year, you can't do this year. Your coach and your offensive coordinator have to come up with all sorts of new ideas all the time too.
I do like that they kept Cliff Kingsbury as their OC though. I like when rookie quarterbacks get to have the same offensive coordinator for 2 or 3 years before he gets poached. So, but I got them going from 12-5 down to 10-7 this year. Now for the Cowboys. Cowboys were 7-5.
The Cowboys.
The Cowboys were 7-10 last year, not 7-5. Sorry, they were 7-10. They added Pickens. They added Booker, who I thought was maybe the best guard in the draft. They probably got the best offensive line in the league. They got the 3 Tylers there. Dallas always seems to build a good offensive line though. Even back when was it the 90s?
Yeah, they had Troy Aikman and them.
But they had the Great Wall of Dallas.
Yeah, and they had it front end. I say front and back, meaning offense and defense. They had it on both sides.
But even remember when Dak first got there, they had 5 Pro Bowl guys on their line. Like Dallas can draft. You can say what you want about Jerry Jones, and the dude is fucking old and senile. But, man, he can pick offensive linemen. And I remember, I think it was Zach Martin, in the draft where Johnny Manziel came out. And the Cowboys, I think, were picking 11th. and Johnny Manziel was still there when everyone thought he was going to go number one from his college days. And I believe it was his son that told his dad, do not take Johnny, you take the lineman. And look at Zach Martin ended up being...
They were screaming and yelling at him. Jerry wanted Johnny
Manziel.
Yeah.
And that would have been...
And it was only because... And he probably still could have gone, but it was only because everybody in the room didn't.
Yeah, and they all wanted...
Everybody saw, they knew. But Jerry thought, I can just bring him to Dallas.
Yeah, and he's from Texas, right? Johnny was born and raised in it. So anyways, so I've got the Cowboys. They were 7-10 last year. You know, a lot of this is going to hinge on Dak's health. I love that they have a true number 2 finally because, I mean, I know they had Brandon Cooks, but they just didn't really use them. I've got them going 12-5 and winning the division, and I also have them being out in the first game of the playoffs too because that's what the Cowboys do. I love building up the Cowboys. I hope the Cowboys go 17-0 in the regular season, and then they fall so you can listen to those shitty fucking fans of theirs
and be laughing.
Can't stand them. And it will make for great TV when Stephen A. Smith gets on TV there and has his cowboy hat on and his cigar and his boots up and he's laughing at the Cowboy fans, making the montage again of them crying in Dallas. Be beautiful, beautiful. But I do think Dallas wins that division this year. That division hasn't been won by the same team in however long. It's a tough division. And
sorry, this is rewind. You think Dallas what?
I think Dallas. I told you I picked them last time we did that. Like I said though.
Well, you were drinking heavily last time, so I thought making a mistake.
I think Dallas goes 12-5. I also think Dallas loses the first game of the playoffs, and I wouldn't be surprised if Dallas has to play Philly or Washington in the first game of the playoffs. I could see 3 teams from that
that's potentially
division making the playoffs. The Giants. I love Brian Daboll. I'm a big Josh Allen guy. A lot of people give Daboll a lot of credit for what he did with Josh Allen.
Rightly so too.
I feel bad saying this. I hope that Daboll gets fired only so he can get a better fucking job somewhere because the Giants are just terrible. I want to see Daboll win a Super Bowl. I like him as a head coach. I think the Giants would be... Now, let me say this. I think the Giants would be foolish to fire him no matter what their record is. Because I think everyone around the league agrees. Is Brian Daboll a good coach or no? I think everyone would say, yeah.
You gotta look at the record, though. At some point,
yeah, but you know what? You got to look at the team. That outside of Malik Neighbors last year, who scared you? No one. No one.
Waterboy.
No one's. And that's what I mean. So he hasn't got a lot to work with. They did draft Dart. They drafted Abdul Carter out of Penn State.
Abdul Carter was a good pick. That's a big addition to the team.
I do worry.
That guy he's a beast, but he's on his own. He doesn't have the other side.
Well, they got Dexter Lawrence. They got a couple. Their D line's got to get healthy, and they might have the best D line in football. But again, it all relies on health. The thing that worries me about the Giants is if they get out to an 0-5 start or maybe a 1-6 start, does Daboll get fired mid-year?
Yep.
And then all bets are off. Because I don't know. So here's the thing. If you knew that Daboll's job was on the line this year.
It is.
And, well, that's what I'm saying. If you knew this, Daboll loved Dart, and you let Daboll pick Dart, he may not even get a chance to fucking coach the guy.
Possible.
So, as an organization, I don't understand I don't understand the giving Daboll his guy and then telling Daboll, hey, man, you are probably going to have to start Russell Wilson this year, let's be honest, because you signed him. I don't see them starting Dart unless Dart just way outperforms Russell, and Russell just sucks in the OTAs and the mandatory minicamps and the preseason.
Russell's not going to suck at that. He's got too much experience.
And that's what I mean.
And he knows how to show off what he's got.
Yeah, so how does Dart beat him? If Russell Wilson picks up where he left off last year, what did he go 0-5 down the stretch?
Then he went 4-0, and then,
or he went 5-0, and then he was 5-4
or something.
5-5 or something like that. Yeah, he had a bad stretch. So if he starts off like that, do they even give Daboll a chance to put his hands on Jackson Dart as a project? Because if you fire him mid-year, you can't start Dart. Because who the hell is going to be your coach? You can't start Jackson Dart if you fire Dayball mid-year. You got to go and you got to find an offensive coach after. I would think that maybe it's going to be a guy like Cliff Kingsbury that comes in there next year if Dayball gets fired. But also, too, what are you going to do? Remember what happened last time Cliff Kingsbury or any guy gets an offensive guy, right? They drafted Josh Rosen. Then they lose all those games. Then he goes, well, I want Kyler Murray because he's my guy from Oklahoma. So they go and get Kyler Murray. So for me, it's just one of those things where I don't understand. I understand drafting Abdul Carter. That was a great pick. I don't understand the Dart draft. I don't really understand why you signed Russell Wilson and Jameis Winston and then drafted Dart on top of that. So there's two things. I think Dart's a good quarterback. I thought he was the second best quarterback in this draft. I don't think that's saying much because
it's not saying much.
We both have Cam Ward on a pedestal way higher than anyone else.
It's Cam Ward, and then nobody, and then nobody, and then nobody, and then there's a few guys down there.
Yeah,
and maybe Shador can prove himself.
I hope so. Although again, he just got cited for doing like 110 in a fucking 40 zone. Yeah. Stupid fucking players. Anyway, so the Giants were 3-14 last year. I have them going 5-12. I mean, realistically, I could also see the Giants winning one game if they fire Dayball early on. So I think too highly of Dayball for him to only let them win one game. So I think that the Giants will be. I think they'll do extremely well as long as they keep Dayball, and I could see him winning even maybe 7 or 8 games with Dayball there. But if I'm Dayball, I'm trying to convince ownership. I don't care how much money you spend on Russell Wilson. You got to let me start Jackson Dart. Because I think that's the only way he saves his job.
I don't think they spend that much on Wilson.
I think that's the only way that they save his job.
I think that's part of it. And then even some people are saying about if they draft Shador, it gives them, being the coaching staff, some of the management, and the general manager, it gives them a year. Well, we drafted Shador. You got to give us a year to prove that we can do it.
But I mean,
Whereas now, I don't think they have a year.
But they did trade up to get Dart.
I know, they took him 25th overall, first round pick.
And you drafted Cam Scatabo and you got Tyrone Tracy there. So maybe Dayball can convince him, hey, look, there are pieces here, but you got to give me time now that we got them. But I don't know. The Maras, man, I don't know.
In the end, the Maras make all decisions.
It always
decide who gets drafted.
Yeah.
You can make your pitches. You can say this is what we need, this is what we need, and you can convince them.
Yeah.
But in the end, they are the ones that make those choices. And this
is what scares me, is that if you're telling a coach last year he's going to be fired if he does a bad job, why do you keep him into the next year? I wish, and I feel bad saying this, I wish Dayball had just been fired last year, so he could have gone somewhere else. There was a ton of openings. I would have loved to see him down. I would have loved to see him like maybe in somewhere like in Miami. If Miami fires, what's his name?
Has his chance.
I also would love to see him next year if they both lose their jobs, like I think that they might. I would love to see him in Houston with Stroud and all those boys that they just drafted this year, and then they got Nico and they got some guys. I think that's where you see Dayball might be able to bring a city like Houston a championship. Where who's their coach now? Their old. He played for them too. I can picture him. Anyways. I think he can bring a town like Houston, maybe a championship. So for me, I don't know.
Well, the coach in Houston is DeMeco Ryans. He went 10-7 last year.
Well, and the thing is that he's in.
I don't think his job's on the line.
But what are you going to do if so they lost his rookie year? Stroud played great, but they lost to KC. The next year, Stroud played awful, and they lost to KC. If he goes into the playoffs again and Stroud's played okay, and he loses to Casey again, you've won for me, but you haven't won enough for me.
Yeah,
and that's always one of those things. And I think Dayball might be the guy to take them over. I think Dayball might be the guy to take them over the top. But for me, so I got the Giants. They were 3-14. I got them maybe 5-12 this year. Hopefully, I hope Dayball sticks around because I think he's a great coach. So. That's me for the NFC East.
Well, the NFC East, you'll hear us talk, especially me, all the time. This is, I don't want to say it's the best division, but it's the most interesting division in football. Always. And it has been for 30 years. This is one division you never, ever, ever make an interdivisional bet, especially on the favorite. This division is just fucked when they play each other. It is just a whole different level of how it goes. The Eagles are the reigning champs of that division and of the NFL, but not no more. The Eagles are not as good of a team going into this year as they were coming out of last year. They're simply just not as good. So they're going to go from 14-3 to 11-6, only based on the ease of their schedule too. The Commanders. Now this is I want to say the Phoenix Rising, but I don't want you to confuse that with the team. This is the rising of the new sun in the NFL. It is going to win that division. It's going to win it handily. Last year, they were 12-5, but at one point, they were 7-5. They were just over 500 at 7-5, and they won their last 5 games. And then they humiliated the 15-2 Lions in the playoffs. And they humiliated them. It was something to watch. So going into this year, and again, they've made a few improvements in Washington. They've gotten way better. Where Philly has, unfortunately for Eagles and Eagles fans, you've lost players. You've lost really, really good players that helped you win a Super Bowl. So I'm going to say that I'm going well out here because not only is Washington going to win that division, but they're going to win it pretty handily. I would say Washington is going to be, I'm going to go 13-4.
So did you say what you had Philly going?
Yeah, I've got them going like 11-6.
Okay.
11-6.
So same as me then. Okay.
Yeah, and I don't even think 14-3 is a stretch for Washington. How they won the last 5 games, the whole team's just coming together. Jaden Daniels is spectacular.
Yes,
he was the best quarterback last year, and you can look at all those rookies and that, but he was the best. I like Bo Nix better. Bo Nix does some things better. I like his long bombs into the arms and that. He can extend plays, Bo Nix can, but not like Jaden Daniels can. He can get out of some trouble, but not like Jaden Daniels can. He is everything that Caleb Williams was supposed to be.
So if Philly and Washington meet again in the NFC Championship game, do you think it plays out different this year?
Yes, I do.
See, so here's my funny thing is I got Dallas winning that division and I got Philly being second. If you told me that I had to bet $250 at the start of the year on who I thought was going to come out of the NFC, I'm still taking Philly. I think Philly's just going to have a bit of the Super Bowl hangover. They're going to have to figure out their defense, but Vic Fangio's still there, so I think he'll figure it out. It'll just take a little bit longer. But, like I said, 3 teams from that division can make the playoffs, and that's going to make the NFC playoffs real fun.
Here's a fact.
Real fun.
Here's a fact. 3 teams from the division can't make the playoffs because you got the Giants who aren't going to make the playoffs, and you got the Cowboys. And if they somehow sneak in ahead of Philadelphia, they're out in the first game anyways.
Oh, that's what I said too. I hope Dallas goes 17-0, and I hope those fucking Cowboy fans down there are partying and celebrating.
I don't think Dallas did an awful lot to shore up their defense.
Well,
with 118 point plus minus is a minus 118 points.
Diggs is going to come back healthy this year. They've got Deron Bland's going to come back healthy, hopefully this year.
Well,
Mika
you
also
say healthy. You don't know.
Hopefully Mika plays and is there. They got to sign him still.
There's still a lot of question marks there. This would be an interesting concept to do after preseason. But I have to tell you, I am not a big believer in a single preseason stat. I don't watch it. I don't want to be swayed by the nonsense of preseason because you sometimes can have starters against 4th stringers.
Yeah.
You can have 2nd stringers against 3rd stringers. Some teams are looking, okay, I got to cut 2 people. I'm going to play my worst guys and see which 2 guys are the best. Where other guys, I got my team set, I want them to get some reps, right? So yeah. I'm not a big believer in preseason, but doing this just before the season starts, it would clear up a few possibilities, and the possibilities being the injuries and who's signed and who isn't, and trades. But I don't think Dallas has anything going for them. I like Dak, but I'm not sold on him because he doesn't win.
Yeah, that's the thing that scares me a lot.
I like CD, but he was injured last year.
He still put up a boatload of yards.
I just hate to see when guys who've been in the league a few years start taking injuries that make them miss games. It just kind of brings up a question mark. And don't kid yourself. There's guys in the NFL. I'm not saying they're dirty and that. I don't give a shit because I would do it. They're going to go after him. They're going to hit him when they're up high. They're going to hit him low when they catch the balls. Let's face it. When you're a defensive player and you're playing the Cowboys and you take CD out of the game, you are getting all the high fives in the locker room. You're the MVP of the game, and you are the man. And that's just an unfortunate thing about being as good as the likes of CeeDee Lamb.
Well, that worries me a bit about Jaden Daniels because he does run, and eventually he's gonna get.
He's a smarter runner than Caleb Johnson or Caleb Williams.
But eventually he's gonna get caught, and
he makes better plays. He has. I'm going to say he has better receivers. He certainly has got better receivers. It's just everything about Washington.
But it just
is a bit better.
I don't know. The sophomore slump, and then he runs a lot. And I worry, does he finally get hit this year where he didn't get hit last year? Someone catches him blindside. He doesn't see it come in. He doesn't strike me as one of those big guys that's going to be able to take those kind of hits.
Maybe the fact that he isn't one of the super big guys
makes
him more pliable.
I know. I mean, you look at Anthony Richardson, right? The guy's a fucking specimen. But he can't take a hit to save his life. Dude's always out. So
he's made of glass.
Yeah,
he's always down. So I think that Jaden Daniels he might even be QB1 this year in terms of like MVP voting and things. However, he has a lot of surrounding cast. I think he has a better surrounding cast now than. Do I want to say any quarterback in the league? I don't know, but I will say that I think he's got a better surrounding cast now than Jalen Hurts does.
Oh, I don't think so.
No,
A.J. Brown, Smitty, Saquon, and an elite line.
Yeah,
Daniels ain't there.
Saquon is the thing that is just out of this world better than anything and everything that Washington has.
So for me,
but otherwise, I don't think there's anyone any better on Philly.
So here's for me is like I don't think the addition that this is not 2021 Debo. Debo's a guy that reminds me a lot of McCaffrey, where he played a certain style, and that style does not translate to lasting a very long time in the NFL. It translates to you have a very short shelf life, but when you play, holy fuck, are you dynamic? And I don't know.
I remember watching the tapes on Debo last year. Still incredible. He's going to a far better team. Debo's chance of getting to the Super Bowl increased by 1,000 times going from San Francisco to Washington.
Sure, but in 2023, when San Fran went, was it 2023 or 2022 when San Fran went to the Super Bowl, Debo didn't even have that good of a year. He had his good year of the year before their Super Bowl run. So for me, I don't think that Debo is. I don't think he's a big ad.
I know there's a lot of talk about terrible Terry McLaurin there being 30, 31. He's old. He's good. He's still good for a couple of years, too.
Well, they got to get him signed because he's holding out.
They signed Jalen Lane. I'm not really sure how much of an impact he'll make. The receiver that they drafted in the 4th round. I'm not sure how big of an impact he'll make right now. But it is an addition of somebody. I think their backfield is good. I think their backfield's strong. They're everything. So Washington, I'm going to even increase to 13-4.
Okay.
And I wouldn't be surprised if it's even better than that. Now we'll get to the laughing stock of the sports world. The Dallas Cowboys. Well, let's just hold on. Let's just go to a Cowboys fan. What do you think this year, Cowboys fan?
I ain't a Cowboys fan.
Cowboys fans will go, this is our year. This is our year. This is our year. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. No, it isn't.
Like I said, I've got the Cowboys winning that division, but I think...
That is like, I don't know what you're smoking before we do the podcast.
But again, I think it's...
I don't want any because that's like a different level of stupid.
I think it's a 1 week... You know what, though? If you remember all those years with Mike McCarthy when people said, the Cowboys will win the division. No chance. And they did. Again, it's just when they get to the playoffs. Now, if you ask me, do you think the Cowboys go past round 1? Not a fucking chance. But do I think that they win the division this year? Unfortunately, I do, and it's going to make their fucking fans so annoying.
I just can't see it catapulting those two teams.
Remember what Stephen A. says, Dad. The bigger the climb, the better the letdown. So we'll wait and we'll see how that is going to go. And
it's Tony Romo on Jimmy Fallon one night reading mean tweets. And my favorite one was, "When I die, I want the Dallas Cowboys to be my pallbearers so they can let me down one last time." That's how
I unfortunately have to use that line.
That's the Cowboys, and they are. And I honestly don't see them being any. It's probably the only team I'm not even going to change their record.
So you think they stay?
They are the Cowboys. They are 7-10. They will be 7-10.
Okay.
Giants. Well, you know what? They're 3-14. So I'm going to give them 4-13, and that's all they're going to be.
You think just one game better, eh?
They've got a fairly weak schedule. They gotta win a few games.
Actually, so you know what?
And they'll probably upset either Washington or Philadelphia because that's what the division does.
They will.
One of those games.
So this is why I worry about the Dayball's job. The New York Giants have an absolutely insane schedule. So I'm just gonna pull it up here. I'm gonna read it off for you guys.
Yeah.
So they play the Commanders week 1, the Cowboys week 2, the Chiefs week 3, the Chargers week 4. They could be 0-4 to start the season.
They can be 4.
Then
in fact, they'll be lucky if they're 1-3.
Yeah. Then they play the Saints, which I think they should kick the shit out of the Saints because I think they're better than the Saints. Then they play the Eagles, the Broncos, the Eagles, the Niners. Then they got to go.
They got a chance against the Niners.
Then they got
a chance in 2 games. They got a chance. Not going to win. They got a chance in 2 games.
I think the Niners just steamroll them. Then they got the Bears, the Packers, the Lions. Then they got the Patriots.
Oh, they got to play that whole division 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. Then they got the Patriots, the Commanders, the Vikings. Then they got the Raiders, which I still think the Raiders are better than them now. And then they got the Cowboys. They've got like 2 games where I would bet on them to be the favorite. Where I'm like, I would feel comfortable betting $50. And guys, just a heads up, we are going to do some bets closer to the season, and during the season, we will we'll bring some odds. We'll put them up on the TV for the betting sites, and it will only be in Canada because we do not have access to any betting sites outside of Ontario where we are. But we will be doing some betting odds, and we'll show you guys.
The odds are almost always Vegas odds.
Yeah, and then we'll show you guys some of our bets that we're going to place in season as well too. So sorry. So for
I don't think a dime of my money will ever be on the Giants.
No, I don't think.
Or the Saints. There's 2 teams I don't care who. Even when they play each other, it's a coin toss.
Yeah, I would say if they gun to the head, who you're gonna pick? I'd pick the Giants, but
I'd give the Giants an advantage only because of their quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Despite the fact one of them throws 35 interceptions a year.
He also throws 50 touchdowns, so 50 for 50. So
yeah.
Okay, so what do you got the Giants going? Sorry,
I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and say they can win a game and go 4-13, win one more than they did. The biggest difference between us here is really the Dallas Washington Eagles.
Yeah,
and it's a huge difference.
Well, no, we got Philly going the exact same, but our Dallas and our Washington.
Well, as far as we're dropping them in the leagues there.
So yeah, because I think that Philly will finish second, Dallas first, Washington third. Like I said though, I do think if I was to bet on a division that has 3 teams that make the playoffs, I would bet on that division.
Well, I'll tell you, though, when you look at Philly and you're talking about, they lost those defensive players.
Yeah.
They only allowed 303 points.
Yeah, so they're going to allow some more this year, I think.
That's
maybe to start.
Is low. That is low. I don't know if anyone got lower. I don't actually see anything lower than that.
Yeah, so.
And, so when you're looking at that and you lose those players, it's going to hurt you. It's going to hurt you.
Yeah.
They still were a plus 160, which is like 9 points a game. On average, that they were plus. So, but some of those games are going to be absolute walkovers, like the Giants. It'll be like a 44-3 game. It'll be the one they break away from in the middle of the first quarter because there's no one's watching them.
Yeah. Okay, so guys, we have come to the end of this podcast. So we are going to do a top 10 now. It is going to be the top 10 players that have never won the Super Bowl. So I'm sure if you guys have watched any of the other ones, what we do is we start at 10, we work our way down to the number 1, and me and my dad, we alternate on these. So I will start this week. So at number 10, we got Tony Gonzalez. Now, he had the longevity, especially at tight end. But he never got that Super Bowl. He was probably a top 5 tight end of all time. He had a lot of records when he retired. I know when Gronk came in, Gronk basically just took them all from him. And then Travis Kelce's taken basically, I think, whatever was left. But Tony Gonzalez was a guy that he really, like, playing fantasy football, he was the tight end that really started catching all those balls, catching 100 balls a year. Yeah. Him and Antonio Gates. They were kind of around at the same time, but Gonzalez was a guy, week in and week out. He was great. So for us, we got Tony Gonzalez coming in at number 10.
Number 9, Calvin Johnson. I mean, what more can be said? The guy never even made it to the Super Bowl. He owns the regular season record for catches.
For receiving yards.
For receiving yards. I'm sorry, you were catching yards. Yeah. He made catches that were so incredible they redefined rules so they could not have them. It's just, for anyone who's ever seen him play, you can say, oh, you can compare him to this guy or that guy, and I won't mention names, but he was one of a kind. And he played on a bad team.
Oh, yeah.
And he still was absolutely unbelievable. No Super Bowl appearances.
Do you think that he's a top 5 of all time?
The problem when you see top 5 all times, got no Super Bowls, can't be that good.
Yeah, see, that's the one.
But that's really not true in a lot of positions, right?
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you're top 5 quarterback of all time, you better have a Super Bowl ring.
You better have at least one.
So unfortunately, I can't say that. But for watching in our time, you'd be hard-pressed to name 5 guys better than Calvin Johnson. You'd be very, very hard-pressed.
Yeah. All right. Coming in at number 8, we got Fran Tarkenton. So Fran, a bit before my time, but he played on Minnesota with the Purple People Eaters. They were on defense, but he played in 3 Super Bowls. Unfortunately, he lost them all. He's just winning. I think, so here's the thing. I think Brady really skewed a lot of things for people and how easy it was to win a Super Bowl. Winning a Super Bowl is really fucking hard, and to even get there 3 times is even hard. I mean, like, how many franchises haven't made the Super Bowl 3 times? There's a lot of franchises that haven't made the Super Bowl 3 times.
There's probably more franchises that don't have 3 Super Bowl appearances than that do.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and so for Fran to make it to 3, unfortunately, though, he never got over that hump when he was there. Even with the Purple People Eaters, they never got over that hump. So we got Fran Tarkenton at number 8.
Number 7, LaDainian Tomlinson. Magic in motion, if you ever seen this guy. Been MVP 06. He came into the league, and coming out of college, they showed sort of a new way of running. They used they were running backs at 5'6" and 5'8" because they wanted the low center of gravity and stuff. And instead of just being like a charge guy with a cut, he was one of the guys that just redefined how you can cut this way and you can cut that way, and he just sort of redefined the position. And unfortunately, he did not win a ton of Super Bowls.
He won none.
But he
didn't win any. I don't even know. I don't think he ever even made it.
They never did. And that's one of the things that it's unfortunate when you play on a team and you set records and you are a league MVP, but you don't get to the Super Bowl.
The problem with
you've done your job as best you can, and that's what he was. He was so durable, so all-purpose, and so reliable.
The problem with LT is that he played in the AFC with Brady and Manning and Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
and that was his time, and it was just like Brady alone.
He was one guy on the team that, and again, if you're a fan of any of these teams we're talking about, you know that when you played them, you had to stop LT. You had to stop. Nothing else in that team mattered. You had to stop
LT.
He was the one-man team.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, in today's NFL, that's just not enough to take you to the Super Bowl.
No.
Much like Calvin Johnson, it's just not enough.
Yeah.
But you are one of the best.
Yeah. All right, so LT coming in at number 7. At number 6, we got Bruce Smith. Bruce Smith was the all-time, I believe he still is the all-time sack leader at 200 sacks. The Buffalo Bills. The old joke is, why do they serve soup off a plate in Buffalo? Because every time they get near a bowl, they choke. And, Buffalo, that city, I'm a Sabres fan, and that city just has the shit kicked out of it so often. But, You know, he made it to four straight Super Bowls. Unfortunately, lost them all. He is the all-time sack leader. He was probably the best defensive lineman I think ever. I mean, when you're the all-time sack leader, I mean, I think you're probably the best defensive lineman maybe ever.
Oh, you have to say that.
Top two.
It wasn't just sacks. If you start looking at his tackles for losses and how he plugged holes for running backs, getting holding to an average of like 1.2 yards.
Yeah.
You can let a running back run 1.2 yards on every play. You're going nowhere.
Oh yeah.
That's
even at two and a half play. Yeah. So coming in at number 6, we got Bruce Smith.
Number 5, Alan Page. Once again, going back to the Purple People Eaters.
Yeah.
If you knew these guys, there was actually a very funny song. They made a album way back then. It just had it was just ridiculously stupid funny songs, and one of them was the Purple People Eaters, and it got attached to the Minnesota Vikings defensive unit, and they were incredible. They were absolutely incredible. But they would get to the Super Bowl.
Never win it.
It was just never quite there.
Yeah.
But year in and year out and year in and year out again, those guys were just he was a leader in the formidable defense.
Yeah.
And once again, when your defense is that good, you need your offense to put up some points. And, if you're holding a team to like 17 points in the Super Bowl, you're doing your job.
I remember there was, they were talking about it. That was maybe the best defensive line ever. There's a lot of people that will say...
You say defensive unit, someone would say.
Defensive, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
So at number 5, we got Alan Page. Coming in at number 4, we got Barry Sanders. He retired still, I think, in his prime. He was still playing at a high level. Unfortunately, like Calvin Johnson and until recently, like Stafford, they just wasted their careers in Detroit. And Detroit was never good. I don't even know if Barry Sanders, I don't even know if he ever won a playoff game with Detroit.
They won one.
Did they win one? And for me, I think Barry Sanders I think he's the best running back of all time. He played with some absolute dog shit teams. And if it was not for him, Detroit might not even have had a football team. They might have forced Detroit to sell. I swear to God, I think he was the only thing that kept that city running for a long time.
Look at his college record. I mean, it came close to being broken this year by Ashton Genty, but in more games.
Yeah, for me, Barry Sanders.
Yeah. And Barry Sanders was one of the finest gentlemen in the NFL.
Yes.
And when he wanted to walk away from the game, the Detroit Lions said, well, we want our $6 million bonus back then, our signing bonus back. He wrote him a check and walked.
Yeah.
He didn't even hesitate.
No. So for me, we got Barry Sanders coming in at number 4.
Number 3, not one of the finest men ever in the NFL. And I hate to put him here because I hate him. I hate him because I'm kind of jealous of some of the things he did. This is a guy that everybody fucking hates. Everybody hates, but they want him on their team.
Oh, hang on. Not everyone hates this guy.
He came home with a Terrell Owens jersey one day, and I threatened to kick him out of the house if he didn't get it off. It was a Cowboys jersey of all things. But Terrell Owens, I mean, he played in that one Super Bowl, and he was the best. Honestly, I think he had 11 or 12 catches.
14, I think it was.
Was that high? It was. He just lit up. Basically, the New England Patriots beat Terrell Owens.
He could have been the MVP.
He could have been. If there was a losing MVP, it would have been him.
Yeah.
It would have been him.
Yeah, and what a fucking head case, but what a talent. Like, I mean, the talent that guy had was just...
Yeah, and when he wanted to come back in the NFL, they were showing his workouts and that, and his workouts were phenomenal. They were better than most of the in the NFL.
Yeah, he's...
Kind of surprised no one gave him a chance because...
just too much of a head case. I mean, even look at AB. All the talent AB had is just...
Owens wasn't that bad, though. Owens put out. He didn't... He
Yeah.
didn't take it on his team or teammates. He didn't walk away. He didn't do anything
that. Yeah.
He gave it his all.
Yeah, he
just liked to,
He's my dad used to call him a hemorrhoid. He's one of those things where he was, but you know what?
But everybody wanted on his team.
Let
me tell you, if the Patriots would have signed Terrell Owens, I would have ran out and bought a Terrell Owens Patriots jersey and go, we're going to win another Super Bowl.
T.O. was...
But unfortunately, he is number 3 on the list that never won.
Yeah. All right, so number 3 was T.O. Coming in at number 2 is Jim Kelly. Now, Jim Kelly could easily be number one on the list because he also led the Bills to 4 straight Super Bowls, and he lost them all. And I don't know if any of you guys are hockey players. I'm thinking of a list. We're gonna do one where records will never be broken, and Florida just beat Edmonton, and Edmonton's got a player on it named Corey Perry. Corey Perry has lost 5 of the last 6 Stanley Cup finals, which is almost fucking impossible to do because he was jumping from team to team to team. So this guy was picking the right team. Jim Kelly did it with the Bills all four times. He's loved in Buffalo still. I mean, he's been at Sabres games when I've been there. Everyone in the city still loves him and stuff like that. But he was one of those quarterbacks, like the big what if.
I don't think anyone else has lost 4 Super Bowls, especially not a quarterback.
No, and I know that I know that a lot of people talk about Dan Marino never winning a Super Bowl. I don't think Dan Marino never did. He get there once?
Oh, wait a minute. I think Montana might have beat him.
So Montana.
I think Montana beat him his first Super Bowl. I mean, he might even have been a
rookie. I think that's what it was, and he never made it back.
Yeah.
But Jim Kelly, man, 4 straight Super Bowl losses. And no matter where you play, that's a tough one.
Bradshaw's got 4 Super Bowl wins, but they weren't in a row. Brady hasn't won 4 Super Bowls in a row.
No. It's hard.
Jim Kelly went to 4. None of these guys went to 4 Super Bowls.
I was going to say, no one else has even.
Winning.
Mahomes can do it if he makes it this year.
Yeah, and they're not going to.
But that's what I mean, like to have that. So we got Jim Kelly coming in at number 2.
Number 1, a guy whose career was kind of over, revitalized, took his team to the promised land, was the best receiver in the league that year, Randy Moss.
Yeah.
And he still didn't win.
Yeah, it's that one in 2007. I think I would trade the Atlanta comeback Super Bowl for that perfect season. Win. Yeah, to get Moss that.
I mean, he is the trophy. Only player, probably in NFL history, never mind receiver in NFL history, that has a move named after him. You've been mossed. And they'll show high school football.
Oh, yeah.
They'll show college football. They'll show NFL.
Yeah.
And when the receiver makes a catch that he should never get, and that the defensive players should have had all over, and where they reach over him and pull it out of their hands, you've been mossed.
Yeah.
But he never got to get mossed with the Super Bowl trophy, with the Vince Lombardi trophy.
Yeah, that's if you guys ever have a chance, watch. Moss only played for the Pats for basically 2.5, 3 seasons. Go watch Brady's retirement, his actual retirement. Randy Moss gets like a minute or a minute and a half standing ovation from the Pats fans, and he was a bit of a head case like Owens, but when he came to New England, he was loved everywhere.
Bill Belichick went to him. He flew to Randy Moss, and he had a 4-hour interview with him. And when he signed him, everyone said, "Wow, Belichick's got this guy under control."
Yeah, and look at the numbers Moss put up. I mean,
that was Brady's record.
Do you remember when
50 touchdown season?
Yeah. Do you remember when he was on Darrelle Revis, when Revis was Revis Island, and Brady threw a bomb like 45 yards, and Moss just one hand while he's running caught it and pulled it in, and everyone went, "Oh fuck, the Patriots have a really good shot at winning the Super Bowl again."
By the way, that was the season the Patriots went undefeated.
That's what I said. That's why I think I would.
They went undefeated that whole year, right to the final.
Yeah,
and then that pesky little Manning boy.
Well, you know what, too? I think that the next year is when Brady tore his ACL. I think his foot, remember he was in the walking boot.
He was in the walking boot before the game.
I think that was never right. You could see he couldn't plant into it, although it is what it is. But
Moss was, he was.
I would have traded anything to have Moss with that 28-3 Super Bowl. I would gladly give to Atlanta if Moss could have got his Super Bowl, because that would have been the greatest season ever. That would have been the greatest team ever.
Completely undefeated.
Yeah, and with more games than the Dolphins did, because they won.
14-0.
Yeah, no, 16-0 or whatever. Yeah, and the Pats won 19 straight. Yeah. They went 19-1 that year. They had the chance to be 20-0, but so. All right, guys, that is going to wrap it up for today. So make sure you guys give a like and subscribe, and we will be uploading another podcast on Monday. Have a good one, guys.